Hello and welcome to The Print. I'm Triya Gulati and you're watching our weekly show Vigyapanti. Pond's latest campaign, Sun Portraits, has sparked debate across the advertising and marketing industry, raising questions around ethics, consent, and how effective purpose led storytelling really is. Created by Ogilvy, the campaign was executed in Pahlodi, Rajasthan, with the objective to raise awareness about skincare. It featured large portraits of local women painted on their home walls using UV sensitive material. As the sun exposure increased, the images faded gradually to showcase long term effects of sun exposure on skin. However, what was meant to be a powerful visual metaphor has instead drawn criticism across social media. People are asking the brand about its intent, and questions are also being raised around compensation, long term support, and accountability. In order to understand the backlash in a better way, I have two guests joining me, veteran PR and communication professional Dilip Chiren, also known as India's image guru, and Delhi-based brand expert Vishaka Talreja, who runs a PR agency, Neef Communications.
Sir, so first of all, sir, I want to understand from you that what is wrong with this commercial? Why is there so much unrest on social media ever since Ponds dropped their campaign?
I'm sure that there are many reasons, but the way I analyze it is that, to my mind, whenever global brands lose momentum in their product sales, they look for fresh markets, which is the instinct of all companies. There's nothing wrong with that. The reason that there needs to be outrage of this is because we don't know the extent to which these forever chemicals are going to affect the lives, skins, and health of the women who they are trying to target. Now, I think there's a pushback globally to many of these products, and many companies are having to adjust their product lineup to meet the requirements of what uh, the younger, more aware, uh, connected citizen has access to. But I think this is probably trying to sneak under the skin of people who are more vulnerable.
So the ad starts very beautifully. It's a very nice story that they have woven around. When you start watching it, you feel that there is a lot of research that has gone into the making of this ad. You are kind of drawn into it. Gripping ad. If you just look it as a piece of art, if you just look it as a piece of advertising, it is a very gripping ad. You watch that. So my initial thoughts were very different as compared to what it makes you feel in the end. But by the time the ad, by the time the advertisement ends, they show those small sample size products being given. So that becomes very blatant. That's not a good plug in a way. I wish they had just ended the ad saying that this is how the skin gets impacted. This is like a long term initiative. I wish they had not plugged their product so blatantly, so brazenly, and that too, like, just showing a sample size product that is being given to rural women. Maybe they did give, like, full size products. Maybe they did, like, distribute a lot of products, and this was just an editing oversight that when they showed in the ad, they just showed like a small 10 rupee, 20 rupee sample product. But by the end of it, it leaves a very bad aftertaste. It makes you think that they did all this research, they did this campaign just to plug in their sunscreen, just to plug in their product. Why did they have to do that for with rural women? Because at the end of the day, their audience, I am assuming, for sunscreen is urban women. I mean, rural women, they're good, they have so many other social issues to grapple with. I'm sure skin is the last thing that they're thinking about. So at the end of the day, it is targeted for urban women who would be buying their product, urban people who would be buying their product. So they want to as a brand which thinks about women, which thinks about rural women, which thinks about social campaigns and impact of beauty products overall. But are they being seen like that? Being an urban woman, I don't think it cut it out for me. It left a very bad aftertaste after I watched the ad. It just looked very gimmicky. So somewhere down the line, it just lost it. Rather than becoming like a social movement, rather than being positioned as a social, a brand which is conscious and socially aware, it just comes across as a brand who's trying to do something, trying to shoot something very nice so that it can go for awards. It can be written about. It can be seen as a brand doing great storytelling, great ad campaigns. But a brand which really cares for women, that didn't really come through.
Right. And there's also conversation happening around how, they pick this particular community, and many are seeing it that, you are exploiting them, because in the end, after your campaign, what exactly are you doing on ground for these people apart from handling those little sachets?
I think um it's a constant kind of issue with companies targeting particular groups of organizations. I don't think companies have really that much to do with enhancing those communities or anything. I think that kind of do gooding is not part of corporate philosophy. What the company does will be generic, will work across the populations that they touch. They can't go in and say, oh, we're running this campaign, so we've got to do uddhar of this entire community. That's not how it works. Communities are targeted because they're an interesting marketing test tube, as it were, and
Mhm.
it hopefully will affect people beyond those communities. That's the idea. Now, giving a sachet is the least of the good that the company can do. But I
Yeah.
think the smart thing is for others who are incensed about this to inform and educate these communities how these products are likely to affect the people who will be tempted to use it.
I don't think that anybody is going and really checking that, how much work is being actually done on ground. Like for this ad also, we don't know whether these rural women were even informed that this is the context in which this will be, this entire thing would be used, that your portraits would be used to show this, that there is a skin problem. So we don't know whether written consent was taken from them, that this is the context in which they would be shown, whether everything was explained to them, whether anything else was done, like while they were there, anything else for the community was done. Were they paid to be on in the commercial? So nobody is really checking, even during even when the ad comes out. After few days, every brand has its very limited recall, very limited time. I'm sure the brand itself moves on to its next campaign. So nobody really goes and checks that, what is happening, if actual groundwork is happening. These ads are, like you rightly pointed out, that these ads are usually made so that they can win award at Cannes, they can win award at other festivals. So I don't think even the ad even the jury for these ads are really going to see the groundwork. For them, it's the shoot, it's the storytelling part, it's the concept, that how well it is conceptualized. Unless you're sending such a campaign for a CSR program, for that there's some CSR awards, or there is somebody's awarding CSR, best CSR campaign, somebody's listing best community development or responsible brand campaigns. So maybe then they would do some kind of due diligence, they would do some kind of, like, they would go and check that whether it has made an actual impact on the ground, or or it has helped any of the communities. But besides that, I don't think anybody is going and checking, anybody is questioning the brand, that how did you, like, how were the communities while you were shooting, whether you did take did take the
Consent.
consent, whether
Yeah.
they were paid, whether they were explained the whole campaign. if you're in touch with them. So yeah, you're absolutely, I mean, I agree with you that nobody's really going and checking.
So, but I also want to understand that, when a brand rolls out a campaign like this, and we have seen this over the last few years, in fact, not last few years, like, ever since this advertising and marketing entered our world, we have seen that, such campaigns have been created in the past where they claim that, okay, you buy our product, and on ground, this is what we're going to do. But does anybody follow up? Does anybody actually check that what ground impact? I mean, I know you said that it's not like it's not their responsibility to कि वो उद्धार करे community का. But when you are making such strong claims on television that, oh, we are helping this, you buy our product and we'll do that, is there a cross check? Like, is anybody following it up that are things how are things actually on ground? Because then if not, then it just comes out that you're using smaller communities to get Cannes level campaigns, to create Cannes level campaigns.
That's a great question, Trisha. But the point is that campaigns are creative products. They are meant to attract attention and eyeballs. That is where it ends. Spin
Okay.
doctors like me will go in and make it look like it's a joyous moment for the community to get global eyeballs. Nothing of the kind actually happens beyond the initial euphoria and the
Mhm.
initial corporate enthusiasm. Because
Okay.
you've done a campaign, you won an award, and you move on because you're only good as your last award or your last campaign. Markets have to
Right.
keep shifting, interest keep
Mhm.
shifting. But when you make profits, the fact that there is a requirement, a government mandated requirement to spend a certain portion of your net profits on CSR, as long as you do that, I
Mhm.
don't think that communities have the right to reject allowing
Mhm.
such campaigns. But if you
Right.
allow it, you can't expect it to come straight to you. It's like saying that you've grown sugar in my field. Therefore, when the duty on sugar cane goes down, I should get a direct benefit. Doesn't work that way.
Okay. Okay. And so just one last question. Sometimes small scenes, like, sometimes you say that, okay, that particular scene would have been removed. Maybe the backlash would have been, like, lesser. I feel that, that particular scene where they are handing out sachets to these women, I think that scene, had it been removed, maybe the backlash would have been there, but maybe not on this scale. Do you feel the same? Do you think that particular scene had that it sort of like was the nail in the coffin for the brand?
Brilliant. It's actually like rubbing salt into a micro wound. So I think big mistake. Creatively, they should have avoided it because the whole sachet as a kind of palliative to those being suckered into buying a product which I intrinsically have issues with is where
Mhm.
the problem is.
When in a campaign you're trying to show that you're doing something for the community, you're doing something for rural women, but at the same time you are not, but at the same time you're not even keeping the sustainable, you're not even keeping in mind whether this is environment friendly or eco friendly or not. So I don't think so that leaves a very bad aftertaste. So that one scene of sashing out handing out the sachet has had multiple negative impacts. So if that one scene could have been chopped out, it would have been, the ad campaign would have been much better, the ad would have been much better. Like I said,
Isha,
that it starts off on a very good note but ends so badly that you just forget about the entire campaign.
think from the brand side, right? Because on social media, while there are people who are questioning ponds for doing what they've done, but there's also there are also voices where people are like, hey, why is it a brand's moral responsibility to do everything here? Like, why be so harsh on them? Like, they created a campaign, that's it, like, move on from that. What do you have to say on that?
The brand. But when you are going down that road, then obviously people are going to question you. If you didn't want to, if you were not concerned about these women, if you're not bothered about these rural women, then why use them for a campaign? They could have done a regular campaign for a sunscreen showing a working woman, or somebody privileged going to office and wearing a sunscreen. They could have easily done the kind of campaigns usually sunscreen brands do. They could have done something, what brands have been doing, like distributing free sachets outside a mall, or distributing free sachets at the airline. You're traveling to a beach destination, so you're being handed out free samples. So they could have done something as simple as that, which the brands have been doing. But if you're going that road, if you are making so much of fanfare that we've done this research and we have got this UV sensitive paint, and we are doing portraits of these rural women, you're building such a narrative around it, you're building this huge story around it, you're making an ad that is longer than usual ads, and you're expecting people to sit and watch that ad, then obviously there would be questions. If you are saying that, oh, you are doing something big, nobody thought about it, and you are thinking about these rural women who are working in 51 degrees of temperature, if you are going down that road, then obviously people are going to question you.
Despite all this social media chatter, Pons hasn't issued a statement yet. It will be interesting to see whether the campaign will be followed by an apology or will the brand silence its critics with a follow up commercial. Thank you for watching and follow for more.